To introduce ourselves better, we are a group of people, about two, three of us, all from publishing, from Taylor and Francis, from LexisNexis, a lawyer friend, and us. We get together and we move from university to university. They invite us. To teach, to tell people about plagiarism. So a couple of years back, we had gone to Manasthali. Before that, we went to Hembati Nandan Bahuguna. We have also made presentation in JNU to sensitize people about our ethical means. So now I'm going to share with you the slides. Okay. So to begin with, can you see the slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll make it, one full screen, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm not, I had already told Prabha, I'm a little technologically challenged. So you please have to bear with me.
No issue at all.
So now, can you see it in full?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Visible.
So basically, we are talking about ethics and conflict of interest. This was again a presentation from MDU, but on special request from Prabha, I have added, something on, what is the definition of plagiarism and how to overcome it. So basically, academic career and publishing, like what, why, where, and how. Now, why do you publish? Why do you publish? What do you publish? And where do you publish? Now, where and how, the last two ones, these last two bullet points, where and how, these are more important. Which publisher to choose from, and where, in what format you want to publish. Whether you want to publish a monograph, whether you want to first publish as an occasional paper like we do in Teen Murti, right? Original research, those which are delivered there, we invite the papers. And then there is a very stiff review process. So it's a peer-reviewed series, a peer-reviewed series. And then, after having published, scholars, they say that we want to publish it in another book form, maybe a chapter in a book, or maybe develop those, that lecture into a full monograph, fully authored by the speaker. Fine, but you have to acknowledge. I'll come to that acknowledgement part later, that you are acknowledging not only another person's work, but also your own work. Okay. And how do you do it? How do you do it is who to approach, whether it's a journal, how do you approach, how do you write? If you have written a manuscript, okay, you can't just be sitting on it. You got to approach the proper people, what they will say, what you are required to do as an author. Okay, so one side is the author and one side is us, publishing research, publisher, academic publisher. So we'll come to that later. First of all, publishing research. Why is it important to publish research? And all of you, including Prabha, please tell me if you have already listened to these points, then I shall skip. Because, can you see my slides?
Yes, madam.
Okay, fine. So if I am repeating what other speakers have said before me, unfortunately, I was so extremely busy, I could not. Prabha had shared with me the link, of the previous 2-3 days, but I could not even attend a single lecture. Yesterday, yes, there was Rajoria, I think, Vandana Rajoria, I heard her. So, well, she did not cover anything, but before that, if people, lecturers, speakers have covered these points, then I'll skip those. Okay, let me know. Let me know, please. So why is it important to publish research as paper or as book? So for natural sciences, a book is difficult. I'm sure among the audience, there are many scholars with natural sciences background and also social sciences that I know. A book is difficult, but a research paper brings international fame. That you already know. Book is very much localized, but a research paper is not. Like, immediately they are, nowadays even books are available in e-form. We do in e-form books, but believe me, people still like to buy a book and turn the pages. But paper, immediately, and it's more and more, there is a tendency among scholars, to seek out um, international journals. Right. So, and there are very stiff. Right now, I'm editing a paper that is, on agriculture. One agricultural scientist from a very famous, I'm not mentioning, very, very well known, one of the topmost institutes has sent me a paper that's saying that we want to publish it in such and such journal, which is published from USA. Please look at it and edit it properly. So I was actually busy with those things. So therefore, I missed good lectures, I think. Acha, for the social sciences, a book invariably follows a research paper or several papers. So now, if you have written several papers, I'll ask these questions later, that how many of you have actually collected your papers, your lectures, and published this in a book form? Many of you may have done it. So you can ask me these questions later. Acha, research is as important as dissemination. So now, I'm from economics background, by the way, and then I did my management from Calcutta University. So while at Oxford University Press, we interacted with almost all world famous, economists, almost all, especially those in India. We did not, there was not a single good, well-known economist whom we did not publish. So while commissioning one of those, he was then in Cornell University, you may all have heard his name. So he told me that, Hoymunti, the problem with, Indian researchers and the difference between the the American researchers and Indian researchers, both in the social sciences and the natural sciences. In USA, they write in such a way it is easy to understand and approachable, and even a layperson, not necessarily a strict specialist of the subject, can understand. But here in India, scholars write only for themselves. So the thing is, what, well, for them, there is, because it is publicly funded. If it is publicly funded, then, they have to make it in such a way, in such a format that they do understand, but not, and not make the language dense. Okay, that is the first thing for publishers. First thing, yes. If it's like in economics, you have econometric models and all that, then it is a different situation. But if you're writing on something, say federalism, you're talking about, say, currency, you're talking about foreign exchange rates and all that. So writing, in a format which is easily understood is not make it dense. People have, scholars have a tendency to make it dense only to show that, okay, we know so much, you don't know anything. That is wrong. Publishers don't want that. Okay, reaching out to a broader academic audience, share with scholars in similar disciplines your findings, personal prestige. So and so I have published 4 books. How many books have you published? Now, of course, it is, a requirement from the EGC. You have that API thing, right? Every day I'm flooded with calls, Hemanti, I have got to publish 10 papers in the next 3 years. Otherwise, I do not get a promotion. Now, 10 papers in 3 years is humanly impossible. But University Grants Commission has made such rules. In fact, one very, very senior person, an emeritus professor from JNU said that, UGC has actually killed, the academic, the academic community. In fact, it has. With that, in fact, if you look at the UGC KL list, I don't know how many thousands of journals are there. If you pick them up and if you look at the quality, you are not happy. Okay, so reputation in the academic world, inform and communicate results to your peer group, discover new aspects, spread the results, spread the message. Why publish? Continue. I'm continuing with this. The first bullet point that you see is career in academia. First consideration is job, and then is promotion. You are armed with so many books. You can see all the spines, from all the top publishers of the country, 8 or 10 of them. Then you have published about 10 papers in different journals, half of them abroad, half of them in India. And they say, okay, sir, I have published so much, and this is my job. And then for promotion, I've just told you that how many papers, I don't know exactly the number, but the kind of 3 scholars have approached me, all of them, are teaching in DU. And they are saying that, we have to pay, will you please edit it for us? And it is fast, it should be fast because we have to submit fast. I said, editing does not come fast. It's not a quick fix job at all. Sometimes the writings are so bad, you are almost rewriting it yourself. So your research is being done by the editor, the publisher. Okay. Then why do publish? Citation impact and databases for evaluating academic performance. Online tools like citation index, etc., enable us to find how many times the author's work has been cited. The Indian Citation Index quantifies usage and impact. Gain funding and financial reward. This we will actually discuss in a broader perspective, in ethics and conflict of interest. So here we know the UGC criteria. So I'll just, refer it. So research publication, a list that is subject to alteration, modification. Research publication points, refereed journals, you have points. Non-refereed but reputed journals, recognized journals, you have points. Conference proceedings, again, full paper, you have joints. So now, again, we come to this, so basically, what we are looking at is, how to get grants, how to growing reading public. Growing reading public in the sense, not only the experts, also non-experts, but informed, non-experts, but informed readership. Okay. So then these are the things, who will be reading your, who will require your papers to be published, who want your papers to be published, where can you go, where will you profit? Not only monetary profit, but also, your esteem goes up. You are known in the academic circle as somebody, who can write well. Who can write well, who can convey a message, in a very crystal clear form. Okay. So why are people writing new courses and centers within universities? Now this is very interesting. So many new universities are coming up, and so many old private universities are introducing courses. We are doing work for a private university based in Delhi, very well-known university, very well-known. They have started, something like international relations, and they're already holding conferences, holding lectures and talks, and we become a partner. We have just recently, last month, becoming a partner, and we have just signed a contract that, whatever they publish, we will be, whatever they conduct, whether it's a lecture or a seminar or a conference internationally, we will be publishing them. Okay. So what are you writing? So this is basically all of you must have done these several times. Okay, you are writing a thesis. Now there was a time, when I'll put this in. Yeah, this is very important to know. There were the first round publishers, academic publishers. They would not publish thesis. Why? Because thesis, was the area was very narrow. That's what we were called some about 20 years ago. Okay, so the top rung universities would always, always say, sorry, not universities, publishers, academic publishers would say, no, we are not taking thesis, expand it, expand it. Now, if you have written, your thesis is, on a certain topic, a certain subject, for expansion of that into a monograph having, say, 5 to 6 chapters, either you take a co-author, okay, or you take about 2 3 years, and that is what happened. It was like, what, discouraging a scholar in publishing his or her thesis, which in our eyes it was wrong. So now things have changed, and they have started taking thesis, because there is always, now you have to understand, a publisher is doing a good thing, academic publisher I'm talking about. But they also have, at the end of the day, they also have to have some, what do you call, financial consideration. So the bigger the readership it is for them, it is good. And I have promoted a lot of young scholars, those who had, they were challenged in languages, but their research was so good. So we started thinking, why not publish thesis? So we can actually approach, that kind of segment who would benefit from this narrow, what you call narrow study. Okay. Then you write a book, you write a chapter in a book, and that is an edited volume. So many of you may have become volume editors, and you may have actually invited papers or conference proceedings. And, as a volume editor, you may have contributed a chapter or an introduction. Then journal article. The journal article is actually very important, because all top rung journals, either they are very well reviewed, peer reviewed, or they are so prestigious, they will reject your paper at a snap of your finger. Okay, working paper, like working paper, occasional paper will club together, doing at Teen Murthy. This is also again a peer review thing, but again I should say that this is not in the UGC list. Okay, magazine article, newspaper piece, that is, a newspaper piece again becomes, what you call, a little less formal, right? Then review article, book review, that is also, you are reviewing books. In fact, we send out every month, we send out 2 of our papers for review. And we have to actually look up, experts. Who is this expert who can review this paper properly, without any bias, with deep thinking and deep subject knowledge? So that is very difficult to find, somebody who has read the subject, somebody who has taught this subject, and somebody who has written on this subject a similar paper. Only that person, can read. Then conference, seminar, presentations, like you have done, you can actually get the papers together and bring out a book on academic publishing. I think IIT Tirupati can do it. I mean, this is just an idea. Then blog, online portal, and social media, those are actually much, much less formal. So that is why, so the topic was that, heading was, what are you writing? So I'm sure, whatever you are writing, has been covered in this. Okay. Now, what is the USP of your project? Draws immediate attention in what way it is unique? Now that, I think this has been covered in, at least, am I right, Prabha? Has this been covered? That is it pioneering, new evidence, source
No.
material? Are you?
No, ma'am.
Sorry.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Not covered, ma'am.
Okay. So
Ma'am, what you are discussing, all these things are new.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
You know what? See, we have spent so many years, with publishing. We actually discourage people, when, they, with full citation, full source, full acknowledgement, they are giving us the same material. So immediately we look up the list and yes, so and so has actually written the same thing. Same thing. It's not plagiarism. It's not copied or anything, but same thing. So you have not the scholar who has approached us with a manuscript has not added anything new. Okay. So therefore, we send it back saying that, we have already discussed this. We have already published a book with this kind of, topic. So please look that up. That means what? The scholar hasn't done his homework, her homework properly. She or he should see, what is available in the market already, in the leadership market. So she hasn't, just I'm writing and therefore I need to publish it. And then, it becomes competitive. So the kind of readership you are expecting from your manuscript loses 10 points or 20 points because there is already a book available. There is already some material available outside. Okay. So therefore, is your methodology, your framework innovative? That is what publishers look for. That is what you should be looking for. It is first your responsibility, and then, the publisher takes a call. No, we know that we have published this, or so and so. Say ABC publisher says, let me look up XYZ. You look up XYZ and say, okay, no, this is the whole thing has actually been published by so and so publisher. It is nothing innovative, nothing new. Remember, we are talking about higher education. It's school, not school text. School text is different if you're talking about, PhD and postdoc. So there has to be something in the, is your analysis, your conclusion different from others? Are you revisiting earlier model theory? Okay. Is your research pioneering? So that is a catch for the publisher, Is your research pioneering? Are you adding something completely new to this, to this, to this subject, to this topic? And it's kind of, we say, often we get queries from our authors, my book is not selling, I'm not getting royalty. Why it is not selling? Because, people are not finding it something new in your book. You may consider that, yes, I have written something earth-shattering, some brainwave, some rocket science. But you know what? Often we see, it is, when it comes out in print form, often you see it is very mediocre. So you have not added anything new to the literature. So therefore, reviewing the literature is so very important. Okay. Or you are writing new existing research in a more interesting, accessible way. This is very interesting. Somebody has written something in a very dense way. You write it, what you call in a very lucid language. Your presentation is very easy. Like, in Sanskrit, we have this, in Bengali, we have this, I'm a Bengali, by the way. So we have this pranjal. Pranjal, very easy. Very easy, so that everybody understands. Even growth theory, modern growth theory is presented in such a form, you would say, okay, I understand. Okay, writing on an area having a popular demand. Now, this is again, non-fiction, I would say. Non-fiction, yes, a lot of scholars, academies, they are writing. Of course, they are very senior. They have written so much. So now they convert their, jargon into a lucid, understandable language. Okay. So this is what, your area of knowledge. Now, what is the impact quotient? Now, impact quotient, we think we have in the previous slide. Citations, book reviews in the simplest term, they calculate the average number of citations over a specific time period. For example, social science citation index and Scopus. I think, I don't know, I may be wrong, but I think Scopus is the most popular one among academics, right? Then journals also have rankings. I hear often from our scholars that so and so journal, if you publish in so and so journal, then you get 10 points. If you 10 points or whatever, X points. If you publish in a journal which is journal from abroad, okay, foreign journal, then you get more points, additional points. Okay, and then discoverability. How quick and fast your work is cited, not only cited, also discovered. So discoverability would like. Why researchers hesitate to publish? Now, often, we tell, why don't you publish? There is this young lady, she is in a research institution in Calcutta. So she has sent me a beautiful piece, This is on women's education from 1930s to I think 67. She's covered the period. There is a logic. She has been writing and writing, and she's not turning over her manuscript. Why? She's hesitating and she's going on correcting it, going on. Has to be somewhere you have to stop writing and hand it over to the publisher. No, what if I made a mistake? So there is the reviewer. There we have the editors. Will tell you why do you feel shy, you feel embarrassed. Everybody makes a mistake. Even the biggest of the big scholars, they make mistakes, and we point it out, with our pencil that we do not find your source. Finding source is so very important, Acknowledging source, acknowledging original source is so very important. People don't do it either intentionally or they just miss it. It should not be. Okay, so now too busy to publish, to become critical of your own work with this lady, with this scholar, and she's brilliant. She said, no, I'm not satisfied. I'll revise it and I'll send you the final draft. So it's been going on for last 2 years. She has still not, and then because of COVID, I was not able to travel. Otherwise, I always look her up when I'm in Calcutta. And then who to approach? This is again a big question. Everybody wants to publish with Oxford University Press. Why? It's not, I'm not telling you that, go somewhere else and give them a chance. It's not a question of chance. You think it's prestige, because OUP will do a better job than, say, Cambridge University Press or Taylor and Francis or Sage or Harvard University Press or Tulika or whatever, or HarperCollins. Do you think, so every day. There is a scholar I met, he was writing on Sri Lanka, the Sri Lankan conflict. And I said, have you sought out a publisher? Have you kind of, shortlisted publisher? He says, no, I'm writing yet another book. I said, that is on what? That is on J&K, Jammu and Kashmir. So I said, what about this book on Sri Lanka that you have almost finished? He said, my first book will always come up with OUP. So OUP is in Oxford University Press. I said, good for them, good for you also. So most frontline academic publishers hesitate to publish PhD thesis. This I have already explained to you, already discussed, why we used to reject, plain reject, and there would be a line, a tagline, the company policy is not to publish, which is actually, at that time, it seemed natural. Now I feel it seemed rude. It seemed very rude because now publishers, they are new publishers, they are accepting thesis. Okay, now cost to the author is again, how much would it cost? How much would it cost? Do I have to give you in print form? Do I have to give you? No, everything is now electronic available. Just send us, in PDF, not PDF form, Word form. Zillions and millions, of books are being sent online. Why do you have to take a printout? And that is very costly. That actually invites cost. So that is also one of the reasons I do not have enough money. Therefore, you know how to go about it. Think it is controversial matter? Yes. Now this is a very sensitive matter. Today we cannot say a lot of things. We cannot do a lot of things. Today we cannot write a lot of things. The moment, we find that this could invite trouble to the publisher, immediately the publisher, closes its doors. No, this is, change the language. Don't criticize. Criticism has become, one ticket for what you call, I should not use the word, but again, criticism is not taken well today for anything, whether, it is a system, whether it is the institution, whether it is some particular person or persons, some particular thought, yes. So criticism, you cannot criticize, not only let alone criticism. You cannot write about certain persons, certain institutions. So for now everything is controversial matter. Everything is controversial. I hesitate to write about someone, for example, who spoke against, I'm writing a book in the sense I'm actually preparing the chapters on the Bengal partition. So there are so many people, that I have found while I was going through the primary sources. These people, they had stood up to certain thoughts, certain, ideological thoughts. Those ideological thoughts are now present. So I'm hesitant about bringing those people, their utterances, their correspondences. If I wrote something, brought their correspondences in situ as is and produce them in my book, I will be in trouble. I'm also a consultant to publisher, South Asia Press, and they always constantly consult me, ma'am, is this okay? Is this okay? And I have to constantly say that do not publish anything, do not publish anything that may invite trouble. Okay. Rule of ethics and plagiarism, conflict of interest. This we are going to do in a big way. Do after this part. Now, part 2 is publishing in journals. Now, identifying a journal is very important. What should I submit so that it doesn't affect my overall book project? Now, I have got 7 chapters, For example, I'm talking because I'm writing on partition and Bengal. So I can always, I can give you my example, So I started with, the, what you call, the undivided Bengal. Then, Bengal divided, that is partition of Bengal 1905. From there, I have started. And I'm going to end at 1967. There's a particular reason for that. I'm not saying now. So I have divided that into periods. Instead of taking incidents, of Quit India movement, this, that, and the partition. So I have taken basically, the periods. So one big chunk of this one is going to be my focus is on the refugees. And that came in thousands and lakhs of them, of which 80% were, scheduled castes. So my focus is on that. Okay. So basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or right now I have 5 chapters kind of in my focus. One of them I want to publish in a journal just to invite, why? Referee comments. They are so important. Am I leaving something? Are there gaps in my argument? This is my analysis. This is my conclusion. Is my conclusion wrong? Is my analysis going in a different trajectory? So I want to publish 1 or 2 papers. Papers are getting ready. So the thing is, what should I submit so that it doesn't affect my overall book project? If I'm publishing with, say, EPW, okay, so I publish 1 paper, okay, and then my next project is my book, and that paper is going to be a chapter in my book, okay. It should be written in such a way that I can make modifications so that I am not copying my paper that I have submitted into my book. That is called plagiarism. Not only from another person, from my person as well, because from me as well, because I have already published with the publisher this journal, and it is now their property. Even if I hold my copyright is another issue. Okay, so assess suitability, read aims and objectives. What are the aims and objectives of this journal? For example, EPW, we take that. What is the aims and objectives of this journal? We just can't actually, we just can't choose a journal. This is good for me. You see, what are they publishing? Are they in your line of thought? Are they in your line of work? Often, we are sent papers that is nowhere near to what we are publishing online in Nehru Memorial, but we reject it because it is not, what we are usually publishing. Now it's of course online. Okay, then yes. Now identifying a journal is, we have to also do a lot of homework. How long does it take for them to review? Review takes a lot of time. I'll tell you very frankly, authors keep on, how long has the review come? Has the review feedback come? Has the expert feedback come back? What do we have to do? Experts take time, because supposing today I'm can you review this paper? He has assignments, he has papers to check, he has to teach, he has so many other things to do. So, an article of say 7,000 to 8,000 words will take time. So sometimes it takes about more than 2 months, more than 4 weeks. We give them about 5 to 6 weeks, but it goes on because the reviewer who is a scholar who is also teaching. So therefore, you have to do your homework, find out, what is the average time taken by the journal. Otherwise, you lose interest. Okay. And then the journal, whether it is online, now everything is online, of course, print very few, and the periodicity. Is it annual? It is quarterly. So if this suit your design, fine. But just because a journal happens to be on top of the line, on top of the list, don't rush for it. It may not even suit your line of thought, suit what you have written, suit your discipline. But because it is a prestigious journal, so therefore, in all probability, this journal might reject you. And that is very, very unhappy situation, very disappointing. So common grounds for rejection. Okay. So many of you, or maybe all of you, wherever you have gone, you have approached, you have been published, but there are common grounds for rejection. What we, reject: poor quality research, no meaningful contribution. Okay, incongruent with journals' aims and scope or subject area suitability, or poor presentation. Your research is fine. You have gone to primary sources, you have quoted secondary sources, you have quoted verbal, you have filled up with all kinds of, very noble and good and kind of, path-breaking research. But the way you have structured your paper, structuring is so very essential. The way you have structured your paper does not suit their purpose. And you have to always keep in mind, nobody is going to rewrite your paper. No one. They'll throw it back at you and say, you do your homework. And when you find it is suitable to publish, come back to us. We will not do your homework. We do not have lazy editors here who will keep on writing your paper over and over again. Okay. Journalistic piece, straight thesis chapter, or project report. These are the three cases where they reject. Length is another. We got a 16,000 word length. Even if an editor sits down, it will cut down. It'll just cut. Take up the scissors and cut. Editors do that. Yeah. But then, is there a flow? If there was a flow, the editor's scissors has cut that flow. So it is truncated. One piece here, another piece there, another piece there. So that is another, reason for rejection. Poor style, language, and grammar. I told you, nobody has the time to do your work for you. You have to do it yourself. Then again, this is another poor theoretical framework that we often find. The theoretical framework is weak. Okay. Libellous, unethical, rude, or lacks objectivity. That we have already, and then of course, objectionable statements also, which is very sensitive. Now, publishing ethics, this is, yes, when Prabha approached me, I said, I'm going to talk about conflict of interest in a big way. Yeah. So he says, yes, that is what we want. So when authors, what is conflict of interest? When authors, publishers, reviewers, or editors are engaged in publishing something with not so clear interest that may mislead or confuse the reader. The reader is reading your piece and it is developing certain ideas that are not good for scholastic reading and is intentionally or unintentionally contrary to another purpose or goal. Most often it is intentionally. Let me tell you that conflicts of interest happen. This could happen by influencing any or all parties involved in the publishing of such a material. So we'll come to the agencies, we come to the agencies that are involved, yeah, and all these agencies create a situation of, and the author is a partner to it, intentionally or unintentionally. So far, have I been understood? I can repeat if you want. So conflict of interest in academic research publishing says may be prevalent in the following: research funding, authors, journals, journal editors, book publishers, peer reviewers. So research funding. So you know what, all of you, many of you, several, you may have received grants, you may have approached institutes or nodal institutions, who grants, basically the funding agencies. Now, most often, they have their objectivity, okay, we will grant you this, right, on so and so in such a such way. You want to write, about a situation, about maybe a historical event. Maybe a historical event, I'm talking from my own point of view. You want to write about, in contemporary history, maybe you're writing about, let's say, the freedom movement. Okay. So now there has been some event, and you know that, who were the influencers. The funding agency says, no, we will definitely, grant you a big research grant, if you write it in such a, they will not tell you straight, they will not talk to you in a direct way. They'll, make you understand that what they want. And they want you to write it in such a way that, fulfills their aims, fulfills their purpose. Okay. So this is again a conflict of interest, big conflict of interest. Ethical issues may underline the researcher's reputation in the academic world and impede his further progress. Yes. What is the fallout? This man, he's not the scholar. He's not, he is not able to stand up to them and say, no, sir, I'm going to write this. These are my research findings. Even if you do not give me a grant, I'm going to go ahead. Yeah, but I will write what I feel is right. There could be ideology involved. Yeah, and there could be also, some kind of peer pressure involved. Okay. Misinterpretation of data may lead to misuse, conflict of interest affecting researchers' findings. Yeah, for example, in economics, data manipulation is something all of you are familiar with. Yeah, you say, for example, the human index, human development, HDI. You want to manipulate the data. You have collected the data, from primary surveys, from secondary surveys, from field surveys, whatever. You have manipulated the data in such a way it shows a particular what you call a particular feature, in a way that the agency is fond of, the agency wishes the public to know. And then, everything becomes political. Then they say, see what we have done, see what we have not done, see the previous so and so did not do it, but we are doing it. This is all, data manipulation, manipulative data. So this again conflict of interest. You have got a research grant, you have got 7, 8 research assistants assisting you in, collecting the data and collating them together and putting forward a report, but that report, it is skewed, okay, because you have to have that grant. That is very rampant. Unavoidable conflict of interest. So students are usually assessed by saying, Acha, this is again, conflict of interest. It happens with all of you, I'm sure. I mean, happens in the sense can happen. There is a chance, okay? There is a chance that, that it can happen. Conflict of interest is, if you are teaching, okay, see, influence assessment. When postdoc PhD students seek employment, ask their professors for reference, teachers become both judge and promoter. For the same student, I have taught you, I have evaluated your output, okay, but at the same time, you are coming to me, sir, can you give me, a letter of reference? So I write, okay, this student has done well. I have assisted you and I'm promoting you. That is again conflict of interest. Often a teacher is tempted to pass a student even when the student's performance is below par. and she should fail. Why? Because otherwise the professor's teaching comes under scrutiny. This is so often is happened. The student intake was what I call, would be limited. The teacher was not able to articulate his thoughts or her thoughts, and explain to the student which she or he was unable to take. So therefore, when the time for assessment comes, the teacher passes the student. In normal case, the student should not be passed, should be failed. But the teacher's reputation comes under scrutiny, and therefore, the teacher passes the student. Specific areas of conflict of interest in academic research publishing. So there are various publishing platforms, journals, monographs, authored volumes, edited volumes, co-authored volumes, etc. Some of the most prevalent practices among potential author researcher, approach by researcher to multiple publishers. We have this so often. So often. Last week, this person, he sent us a paper. So we started, looking at it, internal review, which reviewer. It started actually the selection process. Which reviewer to send is a big process, who is the best expert and all that stuff. Somebody, from the editorial team said, ma'am, let us, ask this person, because I have seen this paper published somewhere. Let's ask this person if he has published it elsewhere. So, he asked this person, he said, no, I have not published it, but I have sent it to so and so and so journal. Why have you sent it simultaneously to so many journals? Please, I'm telling you, these are all ethical standards in publishing and also research writing. You do not approach all at once. Don't do it. If you have, okay, ABC is the best, let me send it to him. It suits my purpose. It is in the same area. It will publish. Only when you get rejected, yes, rejected is the term. It sounds a little rude and unhappy, but that is the term they use. It gets rejected, you go to the next person. Some of them are so bold, they write, in mail, they write, I have approached so and so and so. If you think it is unfit for publishing, then I will approach so. So go ahead. We have got so much, on our plate. And they're boldly declaring that I have approached this journal, I have approached this one, I have approached this. I've also gone abroad, approached, a journal published from the foreign country, and I have approached this. Are you interested? No, we are not. Okay. Pre-published material, there are various ways in which conflict of interest can be brought about. This is something very funny. It often happens, has it been published, and the thing is, with practice, even with you, it will become, if you are going on reading something for decades, even if there is a slight change of comma or a full stop, that, the researcher with minimal effort has tried to change, what has already been published by another person. Immediately it catches your attention. And then you call him up. Have you published it elsewhere? No. Have you taken this from, we have this software. We use a lot of softwares are available in the market. We at IMTI, we use Authenticate. It immediately catches up. I was talking to Prabha yesterday. 60-70% has been published. It is plagiarized. Even the source is not acknowledged. Source, not acknowledging the source is a crime. It is copyright infringement. I think it is India Copyright Act, India Copyright Act, section 16, subsection something, I've forgotten. We have to deal with it on an everyday basis. Plagiarism. So pre-published material, even if your own paper you have published in another book and you are giving us the same paper. Okay. So what happens is, you're plagiarizing your own and you're being disloyal to your original publisher, the first publisher. You have not made any changes. Some cosmetic changes here and there, some paraphrasing, which is not paraphrasing at all, just changing the structure of a sentence. And in that you make grammatical errors because, you're wading into something which is unfamiliar to you. Adding substance to an already existing paper without changing the original version, also fine. This is something, this is something like, this is something which actually I should say is, it will not stand scrutiny at all. unaltered version without giving a declaration. This is often happens. We get, ma'am, I presented a paper and we have published in the occasional series. I am going to publish with, say, Cambridge University Press. My forthcoming book has a chapter, and this is the chapter. May I have your permission? Immediately we say, please go ahead. The moment they seek permission, honestly, nobody, no agency, neither a journal nor a publisher will say, okay, please, no, don't, you cannot use. Of course you can. Of course you can. You are adding to your scholarship. Of course you can, but just, add a line, acknowledgement line, that this chapter or this much portion is a pre-published material from an earlier book published by so and so, date so and so. Be honest. So declaration of conflicting interests policy by peer-reviewed journals. So even peer-reviewed journals, they have their own declaration policy. Offering your paper to other journals simultaneously, which we have already discussed, lobbying of legislators or legislative bodies who may have interest in the submission. Now, this often happens, abroad. In America, in Europe, I have heard that, they have something, a district, whatever, they have this, their constituency. They want to write on the water body. Okay, they want to write on the environment. So they have a group of people who will speak their language, who will talk their, what they want to say. They will make available, they will make public those statements that, the legislator or the political figure wants them to say. Okay. Then on editorial boards, advisory panels of journals. Now, again in journal, I'm coming back to journal, conflict of interest happens, when one of the board members, is a relative or a close friend or your neighbor living next to your flat, they say, okay, please go ahead. I know this person. So even sometimes he or she does not even declare that I know this person, but please go ahead. Yes, this can be published, which is wrong. Okay. Self-plagiarism overlaps with conflict of interest. Now, what has happened is, again, I have told you self-plagiarism. If you have published, now, now I told you about this person who is teaching in DU as an assistant professor. Now she says, what, for my next promotion, I have to publish 8 or 10 papers in the next 3 years. But, they have all come in my book form. Obviously, you have to be a superhuman from another planet to dish out paper after paper which are absolutely new. You have to beg, borrow, and steal from your own publishing, from your own pre-published books or papers. So now, she wants me to mix and match and, continuously going into that software. How much of it is plagiarized? Plagiarism in the sense, not plagiarism, as I would say, copy, a repetition. And now she has brought it down to 16%. I think 16% is allowed. So I said, now you're free. I have altered your paper thoroughly. So it was somewhere around 46, and now it's come to 16%. I said, now please, you can publish this paper. So she says, ma'am, is it self-plagiarism? I said, no, it is not. But it would have, if you had published in its original form. Self-plagiarism means you are copying your own paper. Even that you cannot do. You said, no, I wrote that paper, and therefore, I can write this. This is also my paper. So what? I'm not copying from anybody. No. The publisher has published your paper. They have invested, their resources. It is now there, what is intellectual right. You may have the copyright. The intellectual right rests with the publisher, and therefore he or she may raise. With impunity, people are publishing, Now research is what? You just take 2 books or 3 books and you start copying, and then you are acknowledging the source, of course. The level of academic research has, I'm sorry to say, has come down so much. Everything is easy fix. Everything is easy fix. Everything is, like we used to, when we were in college, and we used to laugh at others, physics, reading physics without tears, something like that. People would read digest, for even at a graduation level. everything has become so easy. Take something from the net here, take something from the book there, take something from this, pack them together, and your paper is ready. You have not, you do not have your own analysis. There is no conclusion. What is new from your side? Nothing. But again, PhDs are coming. I'm sorry to say that, but the kind of PhD candidates, those who send their papers to us, out of 10, only 2 or maximum 3, are really saying something new that can impact the society, the economy, the polity. Okay, 7 of them, should be thrown into the trash bin. Sorry to say it again, they are so bad. On the other side, there is very good research, original research, but written so badly, you do not know whether the person is writing philosophy or Sanskrit or literature or economics. So there we invest a lot of time. Our editors sit together, decide, and then the complete paper comes out, with headings and subheadings and second subheadings, annotate and properly source, all footnotes with all endnotes or footnotes or embedded citations and everything. Then when they come back saying, "Madam, you've done a wonderful job. Madam, your team is so good," you feel happy. We tell them that your researchers were good, so it was good, to work on it. Okay, so that is a very gratifying moment for us. Okay. The editor may decide not to publish your article on the basis of any declared conflicting of interest. Achha. This is again, the review process. Review process is something I told you, how far we have to go to particularly find, I think, I'm going to catch each one of you, next time we want to review something. And I'll say, I have found, a beautiful cache of scholars who can review papers for NMML. So responsibilities of editors, our responsibilities, our responsibilities when we look at a research paper. What is our responsibility? Thorough scrutiny of paper manuscripts. So wherever you write, yesterday I was listening to Vandana and I was saying what she was talking about, what we are writing, the body of the research, how it is written and all that. But from our side, we pay more attention, to what you have written. Okay, so thorough scrutiny of paper manuscript for obvious signs of conflict of interest before sending for review. Has it been plagiarized? No. First thing we put in the soft copy. First thing, we read it. You will be surprised to know, supposing it is, 7,000, 6,000, 7,000 word paper, half of it is written in bad English. Fair enough. Not everybody is, what you call comfortable with good English. Bad English for us, we are there for it. All of a sudden, you find 2 paragraphs, and they are written in such excellent English, impeccable Queen's English. Immediately you catch, okay, no, this has not been written by the scholar. It has been copied. And then you start looking for the source, no inverted commas, no quotes, double quotes, single quotes, no citation, no footnote, no endnote, no source, biblio, nothing. Immediately you query the author, please write, give us a name that will be for our official records, whether it has been taken from something, from somebody's already published paper. So it's immediately, this recently happened about a couple of months back. And he says, no, this has been paraphrased. No, what is paraphrasing? First tell me, what is paraphrasing? Just alter a sentence is not paraphrasing. No. It has to be, I'll give you an example of paraphrasing right at the end. Okay. So now let's move on to the, how much time do I have, Prabha? How much time do I have, Prabha?
Ma'am, you have 45 minutes more.
I have 45 minutes more. So I have used up almost like 1 hour.
Yeah, it's 10:12, ma'am. So you still have around 48, 47 minutes.
Roughly 50 minutes, right?
Yeah, roughly 50 minutes.
Roughly 50 minutes with question answers. So thorough scrutiny of paper manuscript for obvious signs of careful selection of reviewer. This is a complete responsibility of the publisher, a very careful, who will give an unbiased feedback, unbiased comment, of your paper. Okay. Alert author to those in advance to avoid delay, monetary loss, loss of job opportunity. Often, ma'am, please make it fast. Please make it fast. Ma'am, I need to, at least ISBN to de do. First of all, we have to accept it for publishing only, then we can issue an ISBN. Chalo, okay, fine. We'll give you an ISBN because we know we are going to publish. It's a good piece of paper. At least, let it come back from the reviewer. What if the reviewer says no? Totally, it should not be done by you. It should not be done by them. Then what? So we have to tell them in advance that we cannot give you an ISBN right now. Okay, let it come back from the reviewer. After reviewer also, we take about a month and a half. Okay, for the whole entire editorial thing and putting up on, on the internet. So, be prepared. There is no rush. If there is rush, sorry, we won't do it. Don't rush us. So most of the time it happens, but then there is always a push, please, this author, this scholar is, applying for a job. So this applying for a job is so important, so sometimes we actually set aside all our work and then, we start concentrating on this. So issue an ISBN and do all the necessary things, everything, and then we publish the paper. Reviewer having guidance. Now here is again conflict of interest. Your own teacher is our reviewer. So there is a declaration. These are the 7, 8 reviewers. They see first of all, who was the guide of your PhD and whether that, his works you have cited in your book. So immediately turn to the biblio part. How much you have quoted from the authors, from the prospective reviewer that we have shortlisted. The moment we find, you have only quoted him because you have only, quoted his book and taken from his book. Okay, he is rejected because he will be, see, it is very complicated, okay? Because he or she will be immediately, he or she is familiar with your work, instantly recognize that it is your work. And then the review becomes biased. So that is what we want to avoid. Okay. So reviewer having been guided, supervised by the author, receiving personal professional benefits from a review. Okay. Close relationship with researcher author.
Personal management.
Sorry. Hello. Somebody said something. Can I continue?
It was actually, ma'am, it was by mistake.
Yeah, someone turned on this microphone, ma'am, by mistake, it seems.
So, a reviewer having close relationship, which was not declared earlier. In the process of the review, we came to know, immediately withdrew that no, we are taking it away from you and giving to somebody else. Of course, there is a monetary loss from the institution, but it is strictly followed. Book publishing and responsibilities of authors. Be transparent. Be transparent. You know what being transparent means. So far, I've spoken on actually transparency, accountability, responsibility of authors. So be careful of authoring and publishing academic books with an aim of recommending this as course material if you happen to be from the same university, as this brings in conflict of interest. I'm sure a lot of you, I don't know, this is just my guess. Long time back when I was in Oxford, I could have given these case studies, but I'm saying verbally because that will save time. I was in Oxford University Press and, somebody approached me and he was from one of the IIMs. Okay. So he was from one of the IIMs. I'm not saying which. And IIM is an IIM. Okay. And he says, Imanti, actually I had approached that, do you have, as a commissioning editor, sponsoring editor, we had to, approach people, for their manuscripts. So I said, Professor so-and-so, you have, if you have a manuscript ready, or if you're doing something, always keep us in mind. That was when I was in OUP. So he said, yes, I'm preparing something. I'm actually writing a manuscript. So are you interested? So I said, yes. And the topic was also good. It was very attractive, and a lot of universities, including management institutes, were teaching the course. So I said, yes, we'll do it. It will sell well. See, at the bottom of it, in the bottom line is commerce, right? Even if your intentions are wholly academic and very benign, at the bottom line, there is always, commerce, especially for what you call, publishers, especially for commercial publishers. It could be university publishers, university presses, or it could be like Taylor & Francis, which is not a university press, not a university press, but yet, it's an academic publisher. So the bottom line is commerce and also reputation. Yes. So and so publisher, publishes some very good academic books, titles. So I said, yes, so certainly we will be happy to do it. And we'll also have to do it, do a market survey, what kind of market this will, attract. So he says immediately, oh, you don't have to bother about that. I will make it a course material for my students. So I said, how can you make this a course material? No, I'm teaching the subject. Well, that time, we fell for it. But now, as days go by, I feel that maybe I was a little responsible, bringing out this book, knowing that all at a time, at one fell swoop, about 300 to 400 copies will be sold. Why? Because not only in that particular IIM, it will be going all over all the IIMs in India and abroad. Okay, the topic was good, but he was a professor. He was in an influential position. He could have influenced his colleagues from other IIMs, other management institutes. Also, not only IIMs, other management institutes. So I was thinking, okay, so this book will sell 500 copies at one stroke. Why not do it? So we did it, and we sold. Not only that, after that, there was a reprint and then a new paperback edition. The book is still in circulation. But, this is again conflict. And this is unethical. I'm teaching the subject, I'm forcing my students, and if you don't buy, there is always, an unwritten, underlining, a hidden sentence. If you don't read my book, if you don't buy my book, you will get less points. It is there, even if it is not written anywhere. But inside every one of us, the teachers, you better buy. I mean, the better buy is always prevalent, but in the background. So publishing edited volumes, monographs from publicly funded academic journals with commercial interest. Now this, let me explain, again read it. Publishing edited volumes, monographs from publicly funded academic journals with commercial interest. The other thing is many institutes, many say journals, many publishers also, they get a lot of institutes especially, they get research institutes, get a lot of grants from the government. They may be autonomous, they may be totally funded by the government or partially funded by the government. So now they have these research materials accumulated over years and years and years of research. Now you know what, for commercial interest, one or two in the influential category, okay, they catch hold, they call a commercial publisher, out and out commercial publisher. So will you be interested in publishing this as edited volumes or as collected essays or a series? So the commercial publisher is making money out of a publicly funded. So that is, that is again a conflict of interest. And see, here the author is not responsible in any way. I'm talking about the institute. Yeah, I'm talking about the people who are influencing the decision. So violation of conflict of interest. Can disciplinary action be taken for violation of conflict of interest? Take the paper. This happened very recently in the topmost journal. Topmost journal, I won't say what. It's number one in the country now. Yeah, there was this author, who had plagiarized without mentioning the source. Okay, you're not mentioning the source, that itself is crime. You're not telling the publisher, the journal, that I have copied it. Now take the paper. Now what happened was, immediately I got a call from the managing editor. So they know that, we deal with this kind of things. So he says, Haimanti, I've come across this. So we had a meeting, and then, it was, we had already found out that this piece, was in toto copied, a little paraphrasing here and there. And, the author gave us this, and without even having a look. Now the desk editor looks at this issue, right? First, it's the desk editor who can find out whether, it is similar to another paper published in yet another journal. It could be a foreign journal also. It was already published, the issue, that particular issue, it happened last year. That particular issue was already out in the market and sent on circulation as e-copy, e-journal. So then they said, they called the author. First, he would not admit, and then he said, yes, a part of it. It was not part, it was almost whole. He had plagiarized the whole thing without acknowledging anywhere, not even a tiny bit. The journal issued a corrigendum and then withdrew the article from the internet, from their e-copy, and as well as stopped the whatever physical copies were in circulation. They recalled it. It's something like, a car going bad, the steering or the wheel or the airbag, and the entire car, all the units are recalled. Same way this was recalled. And now they have become extremely cautious. So they see how much, because the journal had a reputation. Otherwise, they chalta hai. Okay, let them. If they find out that it has been copied and we have published it, doesn't matter. So therefore, revisit the checks. That is from the publisher's end. Revisit and check. How to deal with conflict of interest? We have already we have established a process. This is entirely from, okay. So this is basically, what, plagiarizing. I'm always flooded with this kind of, what is plagiarizing. So the base reality of the academic process, okay, that I'm copying from somebody and I'm giving it to somebody, okay. New academic work must take into account the work of earlier scholars. Now, this is something only the scholar can say. Have you written something or have you thought something that did not exist before? Certainly not. You have read, say, about a dozen books, a dozen articles, 24 pieces, on this work. And all this reading has given you an idea that you can actually write something that will give a new dimension. I'm always talking about a new idea, a new dimension. Is it giving a new dimension? And if it does, then what was the original idea? Why am I not acknowledging the original idea? I should. New later scholars need to establish that they have fully understood, got a grip over the old material. This happens with all of you, I think, and it happened with us also at the publishing end. You know what? Have you understood what you're going to copy? Leave alone the plagiarism thing alone. Leave it aside for the time being. What I am going to write, what I'm going to copy, have I understood? Have I understood fully? Have I got the grip over the old material that I'm going to, what I have read so far, 12 books and 13 papers? Have I understood in such a, it's a clear crystal form in my brain, and therefore only I can write something not absolutely new. I can write, with a new dimension, with a new perhaps analysis, and perhaps with a new conclusion. So that, my readers, my students, the young scholars, they'll benefit from it. Now, this is plagiarism to avoid. To avoid, what we should do? The work of earlier scholars must be clearly referred to and cited. Be honest, and be honest. Please, please, please. If I have a chance, I can actually show you, within quotes. Within quotes. No reference, no footnote, no Q numbers, no nothing. Within quotes, and then the author writes. So now I ask the author, why have you put it within quotes? See, now, we have to be so very careful, and with our years and years of experience, immediately our eyes go to that. A young editor may just, oh, ma'am, it was just within quotes because it was something totally, the author may have put within quotes because it was important, or maybe he wanted to draw the reader's attention. No. Within quotes money, what he did, the chunk of say one whole paragraph of 5-6 lines has been taken. Okay, has been taken, but without acknowledging anybody. Okay, the work of earlier scholars must be clearly referred to, cited, either in the biblio or as endnotes. Some have footnotes. We prefer endnotes. So either as footnotes or, in the beginning only you issue an acknowledgement that, the work has benefited from previous works by A, B, C, D, E, F. Let it be 42 people you have referred to. Mention all the 42. Otherwise, you are cheating the original writer. Okay? It is quoted. Now you can see the quoted whether single quotes or double quotes. That this has been taken, or write in italics, or bold, or underline, or whatever. Within quotes is the what you call the most usual thing, the most accepted form. It's a standard format. Okay. Discussed, explained, compared, and critic. The original part, which you have borrowed from another person. Which you have borrowed from another person because that person, she has worked her head off. She has actually sweated it out on her own research and presented a splendid theory. And you are doing the easy one out, taking it out of her thing without referring to her, without acknowledging, without even a thanks to her. Maybe, you have not even written to her that, ma'am, I'm sure each one of you would be very happy if somebody quoted you with proper acknowledgement. There is no fear, there is nothing. Why do you feel? I often wonder myself, I think I'm going to ask you this question. Do you feel that, if you acknowledge, then your scholarship is in question? I don't know. If I acknowledge, if I've taken a paragraph, without paraphrasing or anything, what goes for paraphrasing is, I'll tell you, sometimes it's really bad. It's really bad. Because here is your bad English, and here is again a very good English written in bad English. Immediately it catches the publishing editors' attention. But if I'm quoted somewhere, I feel happy. Immediately my index goes up, the other index goes up, isn't it? It is that what is that the term called, where how many times you have been indexed, how many times you have been quoted. So it immediately goes up. But if you're not acknowledging my work, now you're cheating me, you're cheating the publisher, you're cheating yourself. So that is plagiarism, should be avoided. You are referring to every moment you should feel responsible, you are accountable, responsible that, I should refer this. I should give the credit to the original author. And therefore, this is my analysis. This is my take from this paragraph. That is even better. Discussed, explained, compared, and critiqued. Now, paraphrasing again, is a gray area. Described in one's own words and style. If you put it, in very funny things happen with us. The paraphrased material, we know that it has been taken from someone, fine. The paraphrased material, the syntax change, the construct change, the structure of the sentences changed and everything. We put the whole paper, under scrutiny. in the software. Even the paraphrased, once comes out and that has been copied. I do not know why it happens, how it happens. So even if you have written it in your own words, sometimes it does come up, or parts of the sentence come up. So what is happening in the publisher's end, you do not know. They really, but these days what I'm finding, to my great consternation, to my great disappointment and unhappiness, I was talking again, the same point came up. He says, I know this scholar, young scholar. He has already published so many books. He's the volume editor of so many books. And he's already, I don't know how he is doing it. He's taking material from this book, from that book, and writing a book of his own. And who is publishing? A very big number one. I mean, comes in the number within first four, comes within first four academic publishers. Yeah, and they are publishing it because the editors are not checking it, because it doesn't bother them like it used to bother us, and it still does. Okay, and summarized. The essence conveyed in one's own words and style. Now, this takes skill. The last one, how you summarize the scholar's work. That is not plagiarized, certainly not. You have taken the essence of what she has written and you have written it in your own words. So that means what? That means what? You have understood clearly what the scholar wanted to say. Right? So, understanding plagiarism continued. Original code. Now, this is a very good example. If you want, you can read it thoroughly. Solid waste management is one among the basic essential services provided by municipal authorities in the country to keep urban centers clean, etc., etc., etc. Now, bad paraphrasing and plagiarism. Now, this scholar, wanted to write whatever is written here, but in his own English. And look at the difference. And it is also in very bad language. But it is also one of the most ineffectively handled services. The methods applied are old-fashioned, not scientific or effective. The actual number of people reached is low. Population coverage is low. Look at the sentence. Population coverage is low. So that is paraphrased. The number of people reached is low. How is it paraphrased? You could have summarized it. You could have summarized it and written in your own language. Okay, fine. If you are not, I keep telling everybody, and everybody should actually follow this, If you are not comfortable with English, write in your vernacular. Write in your vernacular. Write in Hindi, Bangla. I'm comfortable with both. But then there are, there's Gujarati, Marathi, Tamil, Telugu, whatever. You write it in your own vernacular, in your own language. And then you translate it. It is long process. It takes time. But at the end of it, it is so gratifying that you have not plagiarized, you have paraphrased it and meaningfully, sensibly paraphrased it. Not, population coverage is low and, you are saying the actual number of people reached is low. What does it mean? And the poor are marginalized. To this, he writes, and those with low incomes are not given any importance at all. Can you see the difference? Yeah. So this is, understanding plagiarism. Okay. So I think, it should be clear to you what is plagiarism, what is acknowledging the source, what is rewriting, and what is, taking the essence out of it, and then writing in your own words. So that means you have to understand the concept very clearly. Okay. What is not proper paraphrasing? One or a few words changed only. Okay, only one or a few words changed. Like here, population coverage is low, and here actual number of people. The population and here actual number of people. We are talking about a body of population. Okay, not about one small area or mohalla. We are talking about, say, regions wise, right? Or if you are talking about the urban conglomerate, then we are talking about areas of the city, the south, the north, the east, and the west. Yeah. So you're saying the actual number of people, here it is the population. The original author meant that particular area was not reached municipal authorities. It could be water, it could be public utility services. I've forgotten where I have taken it from. So it was public utility services. Yeah. So they are being, the population, the citizens are being serviced by this, these facilities by the government. Okay, that is the essence. You can put it in your own words, write in your own language, translate it, but do not make this kind of mistakes. The actual number of people reached, and those with low incomes kept are not given any importance at all. Marginalized means, yes, they are out of your immediate area of activity. You could have put it that way. This person could have put it that way. No, they're not given any importance at all. It's not like sitting, in a hall where you are meant to sit in the 7th row and VIP sit in the 1st row. What is not for a proper paraphrasing? One or few words changed. That is not for a paraphrasing. Words rearranged? No. Words replaced with synonyms. This is what has happened, They look up the dictionary, online Googling. Online Google has become the Guruji Google. And, you find synonyms, you find antonyms, you find one sentence for one word, you find one word for 1-2 sentences. A few words omitted. There you see, you have this here, a few with low incomes kept. There must have been something here. There must have been something here, and that was missed. So the words have omitted. It's not paraphrasing. Phrases in a sentence reordered. Order of sentences in a paragraph reordered. So what you want to say, the municipality is providing us or not providing us with these services. That is the crux of the matter. That how are we serviced by the municipality? That is the crux of the matter. Okay. What is the focus? That, how many people are benefiting from it and how many people are kept out of it. That's it. Okay. So what you write, how many people are benefiting from it and out of it, it comes first. And then, the services that is being provided, services that are being provided by the municipality. So you have just, changed the order of the sentence. That is not, proper paraphrasing. So here, if you want to go, I had actually downloaded. I was looking for, whether there is any penalty. So this is Harvard Graduate School of Education, Principles of Paraphrasing. So you can, refer to this. So now we come to the end of our discussion. So if I have left anything, I'm going back to plagiarism, how to publish. Okay, something I may have missed, something not missed. I intentionally left it out because I was thinking whether I should approach. I should, say something about. I've not made a slide out of it because I was actually talking. I wanted to emphasize on ethical publishing and ethical research writing. Okay, that was my intention. So you can, this slide, actually, I added some more to the slide that we have in Maharishi Dayananda University, then in JNU, then in Hemrati Nandan Bhoguna University. We got an invite from Assam, Guwahati, from Cuttack Ravenshaw College, yes. And then from this college, a very famous college. Now it's now a university in Guwahati. So we go around, sensitizing people about, what is ethical writing, research writing, and ethical publishing. So there is, publishers are also at fault because they want to add to their number of books. See, this year we have published 150 original research, 150 books across the humanities and the social sciences. Economics, we have done 52. In history, we have done so many. In philosophy, we have 23 books. All new arrivals, new arrivals. You open the of any first round university press or commercial academic publishing house. You open their site and you come across, every day there is a new edition. Every day, so and so has written on gender, so and so has written on marginalized community, so and so has written on women empowerment. I mean, these are what you call the catchwords these days. So you Google and all these books come in front of you, and they've all been published in 1 year. Where do you get so much material? Where is the time you have devoted for research? You have not. Everything is like, in a nutshell. Like we used to do, when we were in college and school, physics without tears, economics without hassles. I mean, those kind of, digests. That is not research writing, and that is certainly not research publishing. But because publishers are also kind of running after authors, I'm sure all of you have been approached. All of you have been approached, for compiling a manuscript. Now, how you write a manuscript, I have not touched upon that. You may have already gone through this several times, but the thing is, whenever you approach a publisher, do not, to all of you, my request, do not send your manuscript. Not because of any wrongdoing or any mischief, okay, but simply for the reason nobody has the time to go through your manuscript. They don't. They simply don't. They will ask you, you write to them that I have a proposal. Every publisher worth its salt, has a publishing form, a proposal form. You are supposed to send your own biodata, a good biodata, nothing what you call artificial in it, everything original, your biodata, where you have taught, etc., etc. Then the purpose of writing this book, it could be for your promotion, it could be like you have so many papers, you have not published, you're compiling them in one book. I think books fetch less points than research papers. However, yeah, I think so. So basically, and then, TOC, they call it, that is table of contents. That is most important. How is your table of contents? Okay. And then, a summary of your introduction that you may have already prepared, because if you are ready with a manuscript, you're ready with your introduction. And if you're ready with your introduction, then, it must be like, say, 1500 to 2000 words. Always mention in words, not in pages. A page can be so big, it can be so big, it can be so big, it can be the size of this A4 size, or it could be like size of this, we call it a demi size. So, this will have, say, 350 pages, 350 words like this. If you open it, it's a report form, this will have 800 words. So do not say how many pages. This will be, say, 300 pages, and this could be only 80 pages. So write in words. And then you say that this is so long, this is words, and this is the readership, and this is the area of, your research, and what kind of, you have not published it anywhere. The publisher is the first, this particular ABC publisher is the first publisher you have approached. Do not ever say that I have sent my manuscript to all publishers all over the world and including the outer planets, etc. Don't do that. Yeah, you are the first. Always publishers want to know, and they won't keep you hanging. They'll certainly not keep you hanging. Everybody knows, aware of your what you call, the promotional aspect. Yeah, and there is also prestige that yes, I am a published author. Nobody takes you seriously if you go and say, I have published so many books, under so many years, in so many years, I have published so many books, I have edited volumes. Conference volumes, are not really edited volumes. Conference volumes are really checked, rarely reviewed. If it's a 3-day conference and there are, say, about 27, 28 speakers, out of that, just about 7 or 8 make it, should make it. I'm not saying they make it, but then should make it. then there is always a pressure. There is a volume editor. He should, ideally, he should go through each and every paper. Yeah, there is plagiarism, there is new context, there is not only that, repeat of ideas that was presented a year back, yet another conference. All this is, very important for the publisher to know. So you have your own biodata, you have the title of your book, you have a subtitle of your proposed manuscript, you have a table of contents, and then you have a synopsis of your introduction. You have already finished writing your introduction, so send a synopsis. Nobody has the time to write 10,000 words, read 10,000 words. Just keep it under 1,500 to 2,000 words. That is the gist. And then also write your conclusion that this was the purpose and this is my conclusion. This is my analysis is so important. The publisher will immediately know, okay. So this author, scholar is brilliant, and she is presenting something which we have not published before. Okay, and then your body text starts. If you are all ready with your manuscript, do not repeat, do not send your manuscript to the publisher. If you do, and if it readily agrees, then that publisher is not worth pursuing, because that publisher has only its interest, not yours. Because he
excuse me, ma'am.
to add to the number. Just number that we have published so many books. We have published A, B, C, D. Big authors, I'll tell you very openly and very frankly, I have discussed this with an economist, who was in the government, advisor to the government several years back. Very fond of me. In fact, we learned so much from these authors, so much from authors that, whom we had edited. So the same thing, he says that, if somebody approaches me now, I cannot go back, some 20 years when I was actually writing new ideas. I cannot produce anything now. Plain and simple, open. I cannot write anything, only my name. I'm a brand with this particular publisher. And therefore, they will publish whatever I write. Not only me. He says, not only me. There are others in my group. Economists are there, social scientists are there, political scientists are there, historians. They're not writing it. History, of course, is a different matter. Now history is being rewritten with so many trajectories, like a coronavirus thing. So everybody comes up with new ideas. What was left, what was avoided, what was ignored is coming back in a new form. I'm not talking about history. I'm talking about economics, I'm talking about sociology, I'm talking about political science, I'm talking about literature also. Yeah, newer things are happening, are there for you to search, but you have to do a very, what you call very hard work. Because for senior authors, I'm telling from my point of view is they have nothing new to add to the existing body of research. So always look out. We are looking out for newer, fresher authors. As young as you, I think, all of you are quite young. Quite young and energetic and coming up with newer ideas. So basically, I come to the end of my lecture, and it is kind of 10:52. Am I done, or should you have questions?
Excuse me, ma'am.
One participant has a question, ma'am.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Priyanka ji.
हाँ, थैंक यू मैम. आई एम प्रियंका गुप्ता. आज आपने बहुत ही अच्छा समझाया और बेसिकली आज आपने एक कॉन्फिडेंस लेवल मेरा बढ़ाया, क्योंकि आपने बताया कि
Can I interrupt you for a few seconds, please? Prabha, I could also speak in English. If they have any difficulty in following English, I could speak in Hindi also.
Sure, ma'am. No issue at all. No issue at all. Please.
Because I sometimes, for previous ones, I was asked to speak majorly in Hindi because,
Okay.
The students would not have been able to follow English. So I could have spoken in English only. Anyway.
We are doing everything here for the participants, ma'am. So whatever they are comfortable with, we'll be doing that.
Yes,
So it's
yes,
fine.
yes.
No
It
problem.
is the participants actually.
Yes,
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 Priyanka, please. Yes, Priyanka, please carry on.
Yeah, can I speak in Hindi, ma'am?
Of course you can.
Yeah,
लेकिन
thank you.
हम आपको हिंदी में जवाब दें या अंग्रेजी में जवाब दें?
या इंग्लिश में, मैम आप इंग्लिश में जवाब दीजिए, कोई
Yeah,
बात
because we have some non-Hindi speakers. So
yeah.
better to answer the question in English, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, let her ask the question in Hindi. That's not an issue.
Yes.
ओके, थैंक यू वेरी मच मैम, थैंक यू। मैं मेरी अधिकतर जो मेरी केस स्टडी है, बेसिकली आई एम फ्रॉम लॉ डिपार्टमेंट एंड या, तो मैं ये जानना चाहती हूँ कि आपने कहा कि सोर्स जो होते हैं आप अपनी लैंग्वेज में लिखिए, प्लेगरिज्म नहीं आना चाहिए सोर्स से। या मैम, तो मैं क्योंकि केस स्टडी हम करते हैं, रिसर्च करते हैं, तो मोस्टली हम सोशल जो हमारे सोसाइटी में हम देखते हैं उस पर मेरी रिसर्च चलती है और उस पर मैं लिखती हूँ। तो लेकिन मेरे में एक हेजिटेशन है, क्या मैं उसको, क्योंकि सोर्स तो सोसाइटी है, जो प्रैक्टिकल नॉलेज है वो मेरा सोर्स है, सेकेंडरी मेरा कोई सोर्स नहीं है, तो क्या उसे पब्लिश किया जा सकता है? क्या मैं उसे पब्लिश करा सकती हूँ? क्योंकि मेरी बहुत से कुछ मेरी स्टडीज हैं जो मैंने अपने आप की और मैंने सोसाइटी में, जैसे लैक ऑफ, जैसे मैंने द क्रिमिनल जस्टिस सिस्टम में जो हमारी डेफिशिएंसी है उस पर मैंने अपनी स्टडी की है, तो क्या उसे पब्लिश किया जा सकता है? क्या कराया जा सकता है?
बिल्कुल, आपका केस स्टडी तो आप ही का है ना, फील्ड रिसर्च से है, फील्ड सर्वे से है ना?
यस मैम।
Yes, so that is your own finding. ये जो केस स्टडी आप जिसकी बात बता रहे हैं ना, ये तो आपका अपना फील्ड स्टडी है ना?
तो मैम जैसे वो रेफरेंस देना होता है तो मैं वहाँ मतलब झिझक, मतलब मेरे में एक हेजिटेशन है, वो रेफरेंस क्या मैं अपना प्रैक्टिकल, मतलब मैं सोसाइटी नॉलेज मेरा।
Yes, always from field study so and so. You know, the fact is, Priyanka, for this you don't even have to mention the source. In the case study, you are writing that this on my field trip, that this, because you are the author, on my field trip that I found this. You have interviewed people, right? You may have interviewed people, you may have seen an incident, you were witness to certain happening, you know, all this is yours. Then you can, if you at all want to mention some source, you can, you know, mention the locality, the date. That's it. Date is so very important. Nobody would have seen the same incident on that same date at the same time. So this is your own. Definitely not plagiarism. This is all yours. Your own.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. I'm really obliged to you. So many cases there, but I'm really agitated to publish कि ये publish होगा या नहीं होगा. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
If any other question, please go ahead with your questions if you have.
Any other thing that you wanted to ask, Prabha? Did you want to ask? Is there anybody in addition to what I have said?
Ma'am, may I ask something?
Yeah, please.
Ma'am, actually, since you have so much of experience in publishing, I just want you to know.
May I know your name and your?
Yeah, my name is Bharat Kumar. I teach, ma'am.
He is my colleague, ma'am. He is an associate professor at the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, IIT Tirupati.
Actually, ma'am, suppose when manuscripts are sent for peer review, either for journals or for books, what if the ideas are stolen from there by the reviewers? I mean, have you come across this anything in this regard, ma'am?
Can you come up with the sentence, the question again, please?
No, ma'am. In the peer review process, is there a conflict of interest? In terms of reviewing the books. I mean, in terms of, suppose I get to review some new idea and then I may use it before the book gets published or paper gets published. Have you come across?
See, this is again, the moment you are putting up your manuscript for publishing, it is open to a certain section of the scholarly community. Right. So here, it is kind of, you mean to say that whether, your ideas will be stolen. Highly unlikely. It can get stolen by by anybody's. I'm not saying only your, by anybody's, it often happens that, I get to hear that so and so scholar's guide has stolen his ideas. So and so, supervisor has stolen his students' ideas. This idea was put forth by the student, but the supervisor has stolen it. Was written by the students, supervisor has stolen it. So this is happening everywhere, all over the world. But for a reviewer to do something, that is highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. I'm not saying there is a 0% chance, but it is highly unlikely because they look at the book like we get. I told you how often we get our papers reviewed. Mostly it comes like if it is really good, it's saying yes, the ideas are original. Now, see, when the reviewer says the ideas are original, he may have learned something from that. He may use something like that, but certainly not plagiarized. Certainly not at the review process. Because, they look at it like an examiner. Okay. And at the back of it is, the publisher. The publisher has sent him. That way, your idea can be stolen at any place, from any place. The moment you put your manuscript, on the internet, or you're sending somewhere, it can be stolen. Your ideas can be stolen. But this is a foolproof method, they say. But to date, we have kind of, got hundreds of documents reviewed, papers, reports, and monographs, edited volumes. So far, we have not come across any such case. But yeah, you are putting it up, it's a good question, but it has not happened so far. It has not happened so far, number one. Number two, even if the idea gets stolen, you may have also got, not stolen, I said copied. So you may have also copied this idea from some source, right? So you're not putting forth, see, the thing is, if your analysis is new, nothing can alter it. Nothing. So the reviewer is not given the analysis, given the paper just for review purposes. That's all. They don't have so much time. As it, we have to prod them every second week. Where is the review? Where is the review? Where is the review? Right? Put yourself in the reviewer's place. Have you ever reviewed a paper yourself?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
You did?
Yes, ma'am.
So let me hear it from you. How was
No,
your
ma'am. No, yeah, of course, ma'am. I mean, I published less, but I reviewed more. So in that sense, this used to bother me sometimes.
So when you reviewed the papers, how many? You must have reviewed dozens of papers of unknown people, right? It is.
Yes.
See, while I was discussing peer review, it is double blind. You know the term double blind, right?
Yeah.
Double blind in the sense the reviewer doesn't know the author doesn't know the reviewer.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, it's a foolproof method, right? So when you were reviewing your papers, the papers that were sent to you, did you ever think that, okay, this is a good idea, I could have written this?
No, of course, ma'am. In a sense, because publishing, of course, good journals seems to take a lot of time. And then some of these things, many predatory journals or all sorts of journals are there. So, similar versions of these things can be published much before than the so-called original publication. So that slippage used to bother me sometimes. Yeah.
Yes, it would bother you because you're a very serious scholar. But most of the reviewers, I'll tell you, they just skim through, and at one glance, they know that, okay, this will make a good paper. but not certainly go so much deep down that okay, this idea can be stolen. Not that way. It doesn't happen. So far, it has not happened with us. But yes, there might be one chance in a million.
Okay, so due to the paucity of time, we won't be able to take up any more questions. I would request our research scholar, Ms. Kashyapi Ghosh, to propose for